I have been waiting for this day for a long time. I love the Green Lanterns. There was a solid period of my life where, if you asked me who my favorite DC hero was, I'd say it was Hal Jordan. At the time it came out, my dumb child brain even liked the 2011 Green Lantern movie. I had the replica mask, ring, and even memorized the oath, something I still have etched into my brain to this day. And while I've grown older and seen the many flaws that movie has, it was my first big introduction to that corner of the DC universe, and I immediately fell in love with it. Ever since then, for years, I have been so desperate to see literally any Green Lantern done properly in live action. With those larger-than-life creative visuals, it almost feels like the Green Lanterns were made for the big screen. And now, finally, after all this time and so many canceled DCEU projects, we have a new Green Lantern series to look forward to. So let's take a look at that trailer. Huh. Well, I mean, I guess that's why they took the green out of the title, but that's not the real trailer, right? This is all one big elaborate joke? Was that the Home Depot music at the start? Okay, where do I even start talking about this? I think it's important to meet this show halfway and avoid hating on it just because it's not what I wanted, but I still have problems with what we are seeing and how it directly clashes with the very concept of a Green Lantern as a whole, rather than complements it in a new, interesting way. I really hate to be negative on this channel, there is already more than enough of that out there, but I prioritize my honest thoughts above all else, so here's what we're gonna do. A compliment sandwich. I'm gonna start with what I like from the teaser before we get into all of that, and then finish out on a high note. Okay, let's think of something good. Got it. Kyle Chandler is great casting for an older Hal Jordan. He so naturally embodies that cocky, headstrong personality, but it's balanced with the effortless charm that made me fall in love with him as a character in the first place. I also really love how committed to being a Lantern he is just from this one trailer alone. He's not ready to give up the ring because he genuinely loves being a hero. No matter how old and tired he is, he doesn't want to let that go. That feels like Hal Jordan to me. One look at him and you can tell he's a grizzled vet who's been around the planet a few times, especially when it comes to his very colorful vocabulary, which is ironically the most colorful part of this entire trailer, but let me slow down, this is the compliment part of the video, I can't get too carried away. I still don't love the idea of starting out with an older Hal and missing out on decades of history, but if we're going this direction, I'm really glad they got a great actor to play him. Kyle has the charisma needed to make this work, and I genuinely can't wait to see more of him in the role, especially if John is able to help him see the light. We don't get much of Aaron Pierre's John Stewart outside of him being very serious and fed up with Hal's methods, so I don't think it's fair to pass any judgment on him yet, but his chemistry with Kyle is great. Their dynamic feels really authentic from these very small interactions alone. John's so desperate to be a hero and finish his training while Hal isn't ready to share the spotlight. It's gonna be really fun to see them butt heads at the start and then build that friendship out over time. The car scene is the best moment of the entire trailer and perfectly showcases that dynamic. Hal surprising John by driving the car off a cliff and bailing is exactly the kind of reckless stunt I'd expect him to pull, and does a great job contrasting how different they are. And also, it's genuinely so funny. The idea that Hal nearly got his student killed and then just got a beer while he waits to see what happened is so good and lets me know that, at the very least, they nailed Hal's personality. But here's the thing. You have one chance to make a first impression. One. You need to choose what you put out very carefully to not give the wrong impression of your show. Lanterns made their choices, and on the whole, it was a very disappointing first impression for me. This teaser left me wanting more, but not in the sense that it was so good I needed to see more. It left me wanting more because I felt like we barely saw anything of significance. There is a lot to be desired with what they've chosen to show us thus far, as this entire teaser basically operated to reaffirm my biggest fears surrounding the series. Honestly, this one shot basically sums up all my biggest concerns regarding Lanterns. First off, the costume is straight up ugly. I'm not a fan of the colors, and I don't think it does a great job representing the Green Lanterns, but in a meta way, that's exactly how I view this series right now. They put a new, dull coat of paint on the Green Lantern mythos as they effectively distance themselves from the character's history. If you want to take things a step further, the fact that the suit exists physically only reinforces the idea and the central motive of the series. They are trying to do things as grounded as possible, which is a bizarre choice for a Green Lantern show. The suit is no longer something that the ring manifests, and is instead a tangible object that Hal casually keeps in his closet, which is a robbery because I want to see my Green Lantern magical girl transformation. generation. I know the costume was like that in the comics at one point, but that was 60 years ago. A lot has changed since then. People have rights nowadays that didn't have them back then. And you want me to have a physical costume like that? And also, it implies that Hal Jordan had to strip Abin Sur nude to steal his costume, and I don't like that visual. The times have changed, and it feels like a real step back to not go all in with this being alien technology. They are actively running away from all the otherworldly elements that made Green Lantern so cool in the first place in favor of a grounded approach above all else, even when it directly contradicts the interesting visuals that come with the Green Lanterns. I'm sorry, I can't get over the fact that this suit is basically brown. Why is it brown? His name is Green Lantern. You think that tiny piece of green on the shoulder makes up for it? I was willing to excuse Guy Gardner's costume being primarily white in Superman because it was done for narrative reasons. But this? I mean, what are we doing, guys? I can't believe I'm about to say these words, but Ryan Reynolds' uncanny glowing green costume is somehow better than this because at least it's green and recognizably Green Lantern. If I covered up the logo on his chest, you would have no way to recognize that it's supposed to be a Green Lantern costume, and that is a massive problem. Imagine if Superman's costume was colored like this. You would never be able to get away with that, but Green Lantern fans are currently stuck in this century of humiliation. There are two wolves inside of you. One of them is way too green, and one of them isn't green at all. Pick your poison, I guess. And while I don't love the overly armored look, it's really just an issue of color. Look at this edit and see what an improvement the suit is if the colors are actually there. Now look at it again without them. It is so soulless. It's like a coloring book that somebody gave up on halfway through. And who knows, maybe I'm just overreacting. Actually, yeah, that's exactly what's happening, but still, this might not be the final costume. But even if that's the case, why would you first show this costume? Why would you make it so our first impression of the suit is one they're not going to use? You'd want to showcase the costume looking its best rather than the poop lantern. That is what makes me most concerned this is going to be the final look, because first impressions count. I mean, then again, Superman's first look also had a battle damage design, so what do I know? DC is just throwing out everything I thought I knew about first impressions. Let's get high on some copium for a second though and work through some hypotheticals to keep me from hurting myself and others. Maybe this is an old costume. It has clearly been put through the ringer and Hal is not taking care of it anymore, so he could be keeping it for sentimental value. Or maybe he just hasn't washed his costume in a while. That would be very Hal Jordan of him. But if you pause it just the right time and enhance the brightness, you can even see that there are other suits alongside this one, so all hope is not lost. Even if the little window does seem like there's another brown suit behind that one, but at this point we are running on pixels. The other option is that the suit could light up green when the ring is activated, which admittedly would look very cool. That could be a really fun and inspired way to show how powered up a lantern is at any given moment, as the saturation fades the more they use their power before it needs recharging. It also doubles as a visual metaphor for how Hal looks old, but he's still got it. The costume, like Hal, is worn and faded, but once he hits the zone all lit up, he's untouchable. A very don't judge a book by its cover message that's done to drive the point home to John. I could see some potential there, but also, why not just make it green still? Why does it have to be this weird olive green / brown color scheme? I absolutely see the potential in using the costume to tell a story, but I don't want to rely on copium to put my very basic concerns at ease. You could have just shown a shot of the costume lit up using the ring if that were the case. In my opinion, the fastest way to judge a superhero project is how they handle the costumes. It's not a foolproof formula. There have been many projects that aren't good with great costumes, but they usually do a good job reflecting the tone and intentions of the director. Are they staying faithful to the source material, reinventing but honoring the past? Or are they turning the design into something new because they don't respect that history, as if the designs can't be taken seriously, so they don't even try to make it work? Unfortunately, Lanterns is leaning towards the latter for me. It seems like, to go hand in hand with their grounded philosophy, they sucked all of the color out of the costume in order to make it feel more realistic. As if the color green isn't the most realistic color out there, but I digress. You can easily do something new with the costume that is a drastic departure from the source material as long as it 1. Looks good, and 2. Is still recognizably the character. Barring a lantern logo, which looks good, this costume does neither of those things, and that's a real shame. After the 2011 movie, finally seeing a good costume in live action was something I was hoping this show would do. But here we are! It also doesn't help that they're in civilian clothes for the entire trailer, but I get they have to be undercover as a big green costume would be distracting, so I'll let it slide. That being said, we see them in the exact same outfit in every single scene, so I have to ask, do we think this all takes place in one day, all the footage is from one episode, or they're like cartoon characters who only own one outfit? It's probably all just from one episode, but think about how funny it would be if this was all Hal owned. It would be so on brand for him. I really wish the teaser gave us literally any kind of indication that this won't be the final look, because as it stands right now, the impression I got was that this is how the costume is, and that's a very sobering thought as to what we can expect from this show. More than just the costume, even the power battery itself looks strange. Instead of being the very distinct lantern they've used forever, it's a weird hybrid between man-made and alien designs. It looks very unnatural to me, and maybe that's what they were going for, but if it ain't broke, please don't try and fix it. That being said, to give them some credit, I do like how each lantern has a different ring design. It's a cool idea that adds important individuality to the core and could be used to differentiate the wearer as well. Guy's was clean cut, damaged, and it matched his costume. Definitely my favorite one so far. But Hal's looks much more ancient with cracks forming on the base, just like how he's starting to crack after all these years of protecting Earth. Genuinely a really cool way to reflect who's wearing the ring and take things a step further in visual metaphors. But when it comes to the rings, I have to ask, why is there only one ring between John and Hal? Unless I'm missing something, the whole thing with the lanterns is that the ring chooses you, so John should absolutely have a ring by now. They could be taking some major creative liberties with how the Lantern organization works, and I do like the idea of Hal training John and building out that camaraderie, but I don't understand why it has to be at the expense of John not having his own ring yet. It just means we're gonna have less opportunities to see cool creative constructs, and it only makes me think that Hal's gonna have to die for John to get his hands on that ring, and that is an outcome I am dreading. They cannot kill off Hal Jordan, please. I've waited this long, he cannot die already. I'm sorry, I know I'm focusing on the costume too much, but this teaser tells us nothing else to really dig into. We don't get to see Sinestro or any other direct clues as to what the narrative is remotely about outside of the fact that they're trying to solve a small town mystery. It's a teaser that's afraid to tease literally anything whatsoever, giving us breadcrumbs to try and hold us over, but the last I checked, I'm not a duck, so that won't work on me. I don't want to know the entire plot, but some kind of indication of the story would be great. I'll even take some hype moments and aura guys, please, I just need anything to grasp onto. They could be investigating a bunch of shapeshifters like the White Martians or the Durlans invading a small town. That would be a really fun way to balance space and Earth stuff. But instead, we get no indication whatsoever of what is happening. Even just telling us that they're investigating a murder without naming any names and just showing a body would be more than enough for me. But as it stands right now, the teaser has a lack of direction. I get they're trying to conceal the mystery, not give too much away, but this approach is not it in my opinion. We didn't learn anything new from this teaser that we didn't already know before watching it. Let me read out the exact synopsis we got 1 year ago. The series follows new recruit John Stewart and Lantern legend Hal Jordan, two intergalactic cops drawn into a dark, Earth-based mystery as they investigate a murder in the American heartland. The teaser tells us maybe even less than that, as they don't even mention the fact they're investigating a murder, just that something mysterious is happening in this small town. I feel like I'm losing my mind, and I hope I'm not the only one, but you see the problem with this, right? Compare this to the first Superman teaser, and it is night and day. That Superman teaser gave us a full look at every character in the cast, in costume, every setting, hints at the plot, and previews of the big action set pieces. All we get here is a closet, a car, and a whole lot of brown scenery. There's a very happy middle ground between revealing too much and not showing us anything that could have given us more substance here. That is why I feel so conflicted about this teaser, because there isn't even enough to get mad at here. It's just this vague look into a new direction for the Lantern. There is nothing inherently wrong with doing something different. I am such a sucker for a good murder mystery and love the potential for this on paper, but if you're gonna make such a big tonal change for the Lanterns, you have to justify it in the trailer. Green Lanterns are supposed to be space cops, and while these two are tasked with protecting the Earth sector, the threats they deal with are alien. It feels wrong to take them out of their element and make things as grounded as possible without giving us any reasoning in the trailer that would explain it away to ease our concerns. I would happily be the first person to accept this story if I had any basis to understand why they went this direction. Instead, I'm left in the dark questioning why they chose the Green Lanterns for a series this grounded. Even more so considering this seems to fit a character like Martian Manhunter so much better. If we got a Martian Manhunter show that looked like this, I would be so much more excited because the context fits him better as an alien out of his element investigating Earth. Here, we have humans doing things any other human can do without being given any reason why the Green Lanterns are specifically needed over any other character. When you are taking such a big swing, you have to explain why the Green Lanterns are needed and why the human characters can't do the same job they're doing. It won't feel like a Green Lantern series without that justification that ties them into into this mystery directly. I really can't wrap my head around why they decided to make a series about DC's most cosmic corner of the universe so grounded outside of the fact that they wanted to cut costs. It's baffling to take a character whose entire history has revolved around bright colors and creativity and then put them in an environment like this. One of the best things about Superman was how it embraced a world as insane and alive as the comics. There were kaijus, interdimensional imps, and anti-proton rivers so casually thrown in there. But in this teaser, we don't even get a construct. Do you know how weird it is to get a trailer for a Green Lantern series and not even see a single construct? That's their whole thing. The last time we saw one in live action, it was the coolest construct stuff we had ever seen in live action. That guy sequence in Superman still lives rent-free in my head. So in contrast with that, this teaser is only more disappointing to me as we don't even get a hint at stuff like that. They almost teased it at one point, but then the trailer ends before we get to any of the fun stuff. And I already know people are commenting something about how it's a crime drama and call me a baby who needs to see action every 5 minutes, but I wouldn't be saying that if they gave us literally anything interesting to chew on with the crime drama. Even his flying is basic. If you showed me this without any context and asked me who that's supposed to be, I would have no clue that's Green Lantern. I know this kind of flying without any green effects was established in Superman, but I still don't love it and was hoping for a change here. Taking away their power signature makes things significantly less interesting to me. That's just the same old boring flying every other flying hero does. If I had to take my best guess as to why Lanterns is so afraid to openly be a Green Lantern series, it's because of that dreadful 2011 film. That movie was a nuke to his reputation in the public eye, and DC hasn't known what to do about it since. It also doesn't help that Ryan loves to make fun of it, which is fair. It's a really bad movie. My conspiracy theory is that Lanterns was designed as an overcorrection to that movie. Where the 2011 film was fantastical and over-reliant on CGI because of it, this series is as grounded and realistic as possible. It's like they're afraid to even remind audiences of that film and thus took things to the complete opposite extreme end of the spectrum. But in doing so, it just created the same problems in new ways. Now we've lost that recognition and the otherworldly elements that made him stand out in favor of flat visuals and this costume that I still can't stop thinking about. What were they cooking? I'm really scared that Lanterns is going to turn out to be another superhero project that's afraid of being a superhero project. A show that ignores the comics in favor of trying to tell a realistic story, thinking that you can't make compelling TV about a guy who makes big green punchy fists. In turn, that just creates something more generic and paint by the numbers, which is the last thing I want for a Green Lantern show. Worst case scenario is that this ends up being another Surf Dracula show. Sorry, what's that? Oh yeah, I need to explain the chronically online terminology for the people who actually remember what grass feels like. Right, okay, so Surf Dracula became this new term for a series that spends the entire season building up to what the show should have been about in the first place. It's based on this funny tweet that's been on screen and does a great job verbalizing how streaming and the quest to ground everything changed narrative television. I don't want a Green Lantern series where they're only in costume doing Green Lantern stuff in the last episode. That's not exciting. Or green! You can easily write the show to make it a mystery that involves them using their powers, and it would be all the better off for it. There's more individuality and it stands out as they're actually telling a Green Lantern story, the thing that made him so popular in the first place. Okay, let me take a break from the doom posting for a second and talk about something else in the trailer that I couldn't naturally find a spot to mention in the video and don't have the time to figure out. It's 11 p.m. as I'm recording this right now, okay? Cut me a break. Hal mentions that he hasn't met any other Lanterns because the rest of them are aliens, so first of all, I got my eye on you, Hal. Please don't be xenophobic, King. I know those rings are supposed to have translators in them. You have no reason to not talk to the aliens unless you hate them, and that is very fearful of you, so do better. But second, has he not met Guy Gardner yet? Or does he even know he exists? Maybe he's just pretending like Guy doesn't exist because he hates him, which, I mean, fair enough, he's really annoying. Considering the fact that Guy is part of the Justice Gang making national headlines, and Hal has been doing this since the world was in black and white, which, you know, would explain the costume, but my point is that he should at least know who Guy is, right? Unless this series acts as a prequel to Superman? We know Nathan Fillion and his beautifully ugly bowl cut are going to appear in Lanterns, so maybe that's going to be the first time they meet? Otherwise, the idea that Hal hasn't even crossed paths with Guy Gardner yet is bizarre and a can of worms I don't even want to dive into, so we can just assume it's a prequel. Plus, I do like the idea of Hal training John, only for Guy to become a Lantern midway through that process with ease to drive a wedge between John and Hal. As John grows frustrated, another Lantern got it before him. In spite of everything I've said and ranted about like a little baby, I'm gonna try and keep an open mind to the best of my abilities. I want to like this show. I want to be excited about a Green Lantern murder mystery. My big problem is that they refuse to show us anything interesting that actually justifies this being a Green Lantern show in the first place. but if I push aside what I want to see and watch this trailer for what it is, it looks like a pretty good and standard HBO detective show. If I had to place my bets very early, I do genuinely think this series will be a good show on its own merit. It's only once you remember that this is supposed to be a Green Lantern show that it falters under the pressure of living up to those expectations. So if I could borrow a line from High Top, while it may be a good show, I don't know if it's going to be a good Green Lantern show yet. The context of history is a burden that weighs on them and may crush the series if the storytelling doesn't hold up. I'm hopeful that Damon Lindelof and Chris Mundy are able to create a compelling series that also outweighs the Tom King of it all. This show being so different from all the other Lantern stuff is already a flag of that being the case, so I am praying that Lindelof comes in clutch here. I really loved what he did with Watchmen, so I'm hoping that this series is much more like that. Okay, that brings us to the other end of this very filled compliment sandwich, because that's a thing I committed to at the beginning of the video. Now I just have to think about something else I liked in this teaser. Okay, we got a tease of Chip, the little squirrel Green Lantern. Loved that. It's a little touch, but it does a lot for world building and gives me some hope for an expansive Green Lantern Corps out there somewhere. They better just pull through and actually show him. You can't just set up Chip and not give me Chip. I don't care if it's a single post-credit scene where Hal introduces John to another one of the alien lanterns and we get Chip there. I just need Chip. When I made my 2026 hype ranking video, I made a promise. Honestly, all that being said, if Chip is in this series, I will take back every negative thing I said and blindly praise this show. You do not understand how bad I need to see Chip in live action. And I am a man of my word. You put Chip in the show and I will take back all of the annoyingly negative things I've said and blindly praise this series for introducing the GOAT. Your move! But what did you think about the Lanterns teaser? I would genuinely love to hear what everyone has to say and continue the conversation down below. And while you're at it, make sure to give this video a like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. If you don't do it, I'm gonna take away your ability to see the color green. So I guess you'll be able to see this show as is, but nothing else. I don't know, man, just subscribe.